Hello students, welcome to Accounting Explained at AccountWise Academy. This is Latha Venkateshwaran. Students, today we are going to solve most probable exam question from incomplete records. That question is as follows. Mr. Mohan maintains a diary in which he records all his daily transactions. The assets and liabilities are given in this table. See the table here. As on 31st March 2021 they have given, and as on 31st March 2022 they have given. That is the opening and the closing balances they have given. Bank balance opening we have to find out. Closing is 20,000. Sundry debtors opening is 15,000. Closing is 16,000. Creditors opening 5,000. Closing 8,000. Stock in trade 15,000 is the opening and 20,000 is the closing. Fixed assets opening is 30,000 and closing balance is 30,000. Additional informations also they have given. They are, first point, sundry debtors as on 31st March 2022 include bad debts of 1,000 to be written off. So this sundry debtors closing balance they include 1,000 rupees bad debts that has to be written off. Fixed assets include property rented out, rent of which 1,000 was received for a year, utilized for personal use. Fixed asset is a capital expenditure, whereas rent is a revenue expenditure. So this fixed asset closing balance which they have given 30,000, it includes rupees 1,000 which is revenue in nature that has to be excluded, and proper treatment of journal entries should be given. Repairs to premises amount rupees 1,000 which remained unpaid as on 31st March 2022, that is outstanding repairs. All sales receipts were banked after meeting business expenses of 5,000 and personal expenses of 3,000. Sales receipts includes these business expenses and personal expenses. Okay. All business payments were made by checks. Cash sales and cash purchases amounted to 2,000 and 1,000 respectively. Bank account disclosed deposits of 90,000 and withdrawals of 70,000 for the year. You are required to prepare Mr. Mohan's trading and profit and loss account for the year ended 31st March 2022 and his balance sheet as on that date. Students, as this is an exam question, it will be tough only, little tough. Okay, but it's an interesting question. Let us solve the question step by step. Okay, first we have to find out the bank balance as that is missing. Then we have to find out the opening capital that is also missing. Like that we will go step by step. First let us proceed to find out the bank balance. For that also many informations are missing, like payment to creditors, receipts from debtors, etc. So all these things we will do by working notes. First we'll see our first working notes. First working note is to find out the payment to the creditors. See in the question 6th point and 7th point. Cash sales and cash purchases amounted to 2,000 and 1,000 respectively. Bank account disclosed deposits of 90,000 and withdrawals of 70,000 for the year. For the payment to creditors we need only the withdrawals, right? We would have withdrawn and paid to the creditors, correct? Yes. So total withdrawals is 70,000. From that we have to deduct cash purchases. Cash purchases 1,000 less 1,000. 70,000 less 1,000 is 69,000 is your payment to creditors. Here one thing you have to keep in your mind. See, all sales receipts were banked after meeting business expenses of 5,000 and personal expenses of 3,000. That is why we are not deducting this 5,000 and 3,000 from the total withdrawals, because those expenses are met from the sales receipts and not from the withdrawals. Okay. Next we will find out the total cash available with us before depositing into the bank. Okay. Total deposits plus business expenses plus personal expenses will be your total cash available before depositing into bank. What is a total deposit? See the 7th point already we have seen. 7th point is total deposit is rupees 90,000. So take 90,000 as the total deposits plus business expenses were all met. Already we saw in the question, no? Business expenses of rupees 5,000 and personal expenses of 1,000 were met from the sales receipts. So these have to be added back to get the total cash available with us. So 90,000 plus 5,000 plus 3,000 will be the total cash available before depositing into the bank. Okay. Let us find out the credit sales now. Okay. Credit sales will be total cash available before depositing into bank, that is 98,000 which we have just calculated in our working note 2. Now we are coming to working note 3 plus closing debtors. How much is closing debtors? 16,000. 16,000 minus opening debtors is 15,000 minus 15,000 minus cash sales. How much is cash sales? 2,000. See the 6th point, 2,000. which comes to 97,000 will be our credit sales. Now the next step for us is to find out the receipts from debtors. Okay, see, mostly all the accounts question is like a puzzle. When we solve step by step, all the puzzles will go and fall into their respective places, and it will be very easy for us to solve the question. Okay, let's find out the receipts from debtors now. Now let us do the sundry debtors account to find out the receipts from debtors. These are all the opening and the closing balances given in the question. In the question, they have given the opening balance of debtors as 15,000. Debtors is an asset, so the opening balance will be on the debit side. In the sundry debtors account, on 1/4/2021, write two balance brought down 15,000. Next, if you refer your working note 3, you can find out the credit sales as 97,000, which we have calculated. So the journal entry for credit sales is what? Sundry debtors account debit to credit sales, right? So we are doing the sundry debtors account. In the journal, you have credited the credit sales. So in the ledger of sundry debtors account, you are going to debit the credit sales. To credit sales 97,000. I am explaining this because you can refresh your journal entry and ledger posting. That's all. Okay. Next, the closing balance of sundry debtors is given as 16,000. Take it to the credit side of sundry debtors account. 31/3/2022 buy balance carried down 16,000. On seeing, we find out the total of the debit side is more. 15,000 plus 97,000 comes to 1,12,000. Take it to the credit side also 1,12,000. When you deduct 16,000 from 1,12,000, you get 96,000 as the balance. That will be your by bank balancing figure. So that is the receipts from debtors. I have uploaded 4 videos on incomplete records. Introduction, I have given how to calculate opening capital, closing capital, everything I have done there. Even a easy question also I have solved in the previous videos. I'll be sharing the link in the description box. You can go through those videos for a better understanding. In the 6th point, they have given you cash sales and cash purchases, right? Cash sales and cash purchases of 2,000 and 1,000. From there, we have to find out the cash balance. Your cash balance will be cash sales minus cash purchases. That is 2,000 minus 1,000 is 1,000. Okay. We will open sundry creditors account to find out the credit purchases. Okay. So from the information given in the question, we know sundry creditors opening balance is 5,000. Sundry creditor is a liability, so the opening balance will have a credit balance. Okay, 1/4/2021 buy balance brought down on the credit side of the sundry creditors account 5,000. Next, on referring to the working note, we know payment made to creditors is 69,000. The journal entry for payment made to creditors is sundry creditors account debit to bank account. We are doing the sundry creditors account. In the journal, bank account is credited, so in the ledger of sundry creditors, it will be debited to bank 69,000. And again, we know that the closing balance of sundry creditor is 8,000 on 31/3/2022. To balance carried down is 8,000. On seeing, we find out the debit balance is more. So we take the debit side total 69 plus 8,000, that is 77,000 to both the sides. On deducting 77,000 from 5,000, we get the credit purchases as 72,000. Next, we will do bank account. Bank account will have on the debit side receipts and on the credit side payments. In the bank account, see the question, the opening balance is missing. We have to find out. So on 1/4/21, we write two balance brought down and we leave it. So that will be our balancing figure. Okay. On referring to our working note 1, we know that the payment to creditors is 69,000. So we write on the payment side by sundry creditors 69,000. Next, working note 5, receipt from debtors is 96,000. So on the receipt side, two sundry debtors we write, and on the amount column we write 96,000. Now see the point 4 in our question. Business expenses of 5,000 and personal expenses of 3,000 were paid. So on the payment side, by business expenses 5,000 and you write there, and personal expenses means what? When the business pays personal expenses of the proprietor, it is called as drawings, correct? So by drawings 3,000 we write on the payment side. Next, see the second point in your question. Fixed asset include property rented out, rent of which ₹1,000 was received for a year, utilized for personal use. So this fixed asset, it has been rented out and we have received 1,000 as the rent, but it has been used for personal use. That we will take care of it later. Now first we will just include that 1,000 as the rent in our receipts. So to rent for fixed assets, ₹1,000. Now when you total the debit side, 96 plus 1000, it comes to 97,000. Similarly, when you total the credit side like 69 plus 5,000 plus 3,000 plus 20,000, it comes to 97,000. So the debit side total and the credit side total are equal. That means your opening balance of bank is nil or 0. Students, now we note the bank balance. Bank balance we just found out as 0, right? So we will proceed to find out the opening capital, which is also missing. For opening capital, we have to find out the opening balance sheet as at 1st April 2021. So these are all the opening balances given in the question. The balance sheet will have liabilities on the left side and assets on the right side. Okay, so we will take the information from here. Bank is nil, 0. Sundry debtors is 15,000, take it to the asset side. Stock is 15,000, take it to the asset side. Fixed asset is 30,000, take it to the asset side. Okay, now sundry creditors is the only item to be taken to the liability side. Sundry creditors 5,000. See, the total of asset side is more, so we total it, we get 60,000. We take that total also to the liability side. When we deduct 60,000 from 5,000, we get 55,000 as the opening capital. That will be our balancing figure. Students, we have prepared all the working notes. Now the final part of the question or the real part of the question comes where we have to prepare trading and profit and loss account and the balance sheet. So we are preparing trading and profit and loss account as on 31st March 2022. The trading and profit and loss account will have DR on the left side and CR on the right side, and the columns on both the sides will be particulars amount, particulars amount. Okay, so we have to remember that trading and profit and loss account on the debit side, all the expenses and opening stock will come. Similarly, on the credit side, all the income on the closing stock will come. Let us prepare it now. See, in the working table given in the question, we have opening stock as 15,000. Write it on the debit side, 2 opening stock, 15,000. Next, 2 purchases, cash. Cash purchases is given in the question as 1,000 rupees. So, cash is 1,000. Next, if you refer our working note 6, we would have found out the credit purchases as 72,000. Working note 6, see the working note 6, okay, for your reference. 72,000 is the credit purchases. Now debit side is over. Let us go to the credit side. Okay, credits for the credit side, sales. Buy sales is how much? Cash sales first. Let us take the cash sales is given in the question as, see, cash sales is given in the question as 2,000. So cash sales is 2,000. Next, credit sales we have found in the working note 3 as 97,000. Credit 97,000. Closing stock is given in the table as 20,000. By closing stock 20,000. On seeing, we find out the credit side total is more. So take the total on both the sides. 2,000 plus 97,000 plus 20,000 comes to 1,19,000. Take it to the debit side. Deduct 15,000 plus 1,000 plus 72,000 from 92,000. You get 31,000 as a gross profit. To gross profit carried down, balancing figure, that is 31,000. Now take it down as by gross profit brought down 31,000. If you see the question, the business expenses and personal expenses are given. The business expenses should be taken to the P&L account. 2 business expenses 5,000 rupees. Again, repairs to premises amount to 1,000, which is unpaid. That means already I have told you it's outstanding repairs. So on the debit side, you take 2 outstanding repairs, 1,000 rupees. And first point, if you see, sundry debtors as on 31st March 2022 include bad debts of 1,000 to be written off. So bad debt should also be taken to the debit side of the P&L account. 2 bad debts, 1,000. Next, if you see the second point, fixed asset include property rented out, rupees 1,000 was received for a year, utilized for personal use. This we will see personal use later. Rent we have received from the fixed asset, that is an income, right? So take it to the credit side of the P&L account. By rent from fixed asset, 1,000. On seeing, we find out the total of the credit side of the P&L account is more. So take the total 31,000 plus 1,000, 32,000 to the debit side also. If we deduct 5,000 plus 1,000 plus 1,000, which is on the debit side, from 32,000, you get 25,000 as the net profit carried down, which will be added to the opening capital in the balance sheet. We have come to the last part of the question, balance sheet, which has to tally. Okay, balance sheet as at 31st March 2022. Liabilities on the left side, assets on the right side. Already we saw in the opening balance sheet. Okay, first opening capital. If you refer our working note, opening capital is what? 55,000. Take 55,000 in the inner column. Add net profit, which we have just calculated, 25,000. When you add these two, you get 80,000. Next, less drawings. Fixed asset include property rented out, of which 1,000 was received for a year, utilized for personal use. I told you, no, this we will see later, see later. So now you are going to Add this to the drawings 1000 rupees, and again personal expenses of 3000 has been met from sales and receipts. So this personal expense means what? Drawings again, right? So add that 3000 also. 3000 plus 1000 is the total drawings deduct. If you deduct 4000 from 80,000, you get 76,000 as the closing capital. Sundry creditors is given in the question as how much? 8,000. 8,000. And outstanding rent. How much is outstanding rent? Repairs to premises amounted to rupees 1,000, remained unpaid as on 31st March 2022 on the liability side 1,000, because outstanding rent is a liability. We are liable to pay to the owner. So it is taken on the liability side. Okay. Next, bank. Closing balance of bank is given in the table as 20,000 taken to the asset side. Cash. Cash we have calculated how much in the from the working note 4. We know that the cash is 1,000. Stock is given in the table as 20,000. Take 20,000. Only see the closing balance, okay, not the opening balance. Stock is given in the table as 20,000. See 20,000. Sundry debtors, take to the inner column. 16,000 is given in the table. 16,000 less bad debts. See the first point is how much sundry debtors as on 31st March 2022 include bad debts of rupees 1,000 to be written off. Okay, so deduct that 1,000 from sundry debtors 1,000. So the total debtors comes to 15,000. Next, fixed assets take in the inner column 30,000. Again see here, fixed assets include property rented out. Rent of which 1,000 was received for a year. So that rent has been included in the fixed asset. So deduct that rent from the fixed asset, less rent 1,000. So the outer column of fixed assets will have 29,000. Now we are going to add the liability sides and the asset side. Okay. When you add the asset side fully, you get the total as 85,000. You add fully in the outer column, you get the total as 85,000. Again, if you add the liability side fully, you get the total as 85,000. Both the assets and the liabilities tally. So our answer is also correct and this question is solved. If you would like to inquire about the online classes which I take or to get more worksheets, you can contact us at acc.wiseacademy@gmail.com.